All right, cool. So, Palm Desert, California. Palm Desert, California is known for many things, but the music scene has had a heavy influence internationally. The Palm Desert bands are known for rock, metal music, which they actually ended up creating their own kind of genre or formed a new kind of sound of music called stoner rock. Several rock bands have come out of the Palm Desert area, and they have definitely been influencing music since the 1990s. So the first person I want to talk about is Josh Homme. He is mainly known as a songwriter and a guitarist, but he plays a bunch of other instruments like bass, drums, keys, and he also plays genres of music like hard rock, alternative rock, and blues rock. He's really into rock, apparently. He's been pursuing music for 34 years, and he's still pursuing it right now, which is pretty cool because I don't think he's going to stop anytime soon. How did he get his start? He started to pursue music at the age of 14. He formed his first band, whose name would eventually be called Kyuss. From there, he would go on to be in several other bands, Queens of the Stone Age, Eagles of Death Metal, the Desert Sessions. They were all really part of different bands that he was just in. He also partnered with many other bands and artists and had a single career at some point, which is pretty cool, I think. So how do you do it? In interviews, he talked about how it's important to take risks and to be creative. He definitely would take risks, and he would definitely try to be creative in different areas of his music and stuff like that. When it came to writing, he really kept in mind who was listening. He tried to have diversity, and he knew like people didn't only want to listen to angry music, so he really tried to reach not just his fan base, but every audience that listens to music. When it comes to recording, he would say, at the end of the day, this is just a musical way to explain a lifetime. So the most important record I'm making is the one I'm working on. For a lack of a better term, I bet my life on it. If you don't risk anything, you're not going to get anything. And I think that was really cool. Again, he takes risk, but also whenever he's working on a project, that's where he is putting all his energy and effort is in that project. So now we're at the band Kyuss. So Kyuss is a rock band that came out of Palm Desert, California. The band consists of members John Garcia, Josh Homme, who we just talked about, Nick Oliver, and Brant Bonjork. I think it's kind of funny, fun fact, that the band changed their name like 3 times before they actually kept their name or kept a name. How'd they get their start? They started in the 1990s. In the beginning, they had a good local fan base, and they enjoyed the local and the little commercial success that they had. The first album came out in 1991, but it was a bust until they started touring. The first album really didn't get their sound well. The person producing it didn't really record their sound well. So in 1992, a different producer decided that he was going to produce their second album, and he really captured their sound. And this album really took the world by storm and helped the band to establish their sound and really helped them pave the way. They continued to make other albums and touring, and just to keep up the momentum. How'd they do it? They tried to be creative in their writing. They wanted to keep their music interesting, and so that's what they did. They tried to keep it interesting. They didn't give up when their first album failed, and people liked what they heard in the live performances, so they found someone that would capture their sound better, and they did, and it helped them tremendously. And so in the next album, they found their sound and people loved it, and it really took the world by storm. They also have a huge fan base, and they really wanted their fans to enjoy their music. They would be very intentional with their writing and their music and their performances because they wanted to reach all people, and they wanted to just be creative and take risks and not have the same old boring stuff. That brings me to the next band, Queens of the Stone Age. So members of the band Kyuss broke up in 1995, but reunited in 1998 and formed a new band called Queens of the Stone Age. This band is constantly losing members and bringing in new ones. At some point, past members from Kyuss, Josh Homme and Nick Oliver, were in the band together. They got their starting in 1998. This band had a great sound and has, I don't know why I'm saying had, but has a lot of great musicians, and they have a good leader, Josh Homme, who has been around and knows a lot of musicians. And so the Queens of Stone Age are constantly losing members, and it's nice that they have a lot of experienced musicians, especially Josh Homme, because they know so many people, and they can just ask their friends, all the different musicians that they know, like, hey, I need a bassist or I need a drummer. Would you want to come join the band? And so they just keep replacing people, and people love being in bands, so I guess it works for them. They have made 7 studio albums, and they're still together and touring today. How they do it, they know so many people who are willing to join bands, and so they never give up when they lose a band member. Instead, they just get a replacement and keep touring and keep writing music, which is pretty cool. They are constantly making ever-evolving music. They do not play or write the same old boring stuff. They try to make it interesting, colorful, and new, which I think is really important, because I think a lot of times people forget, like, yeah, this works, but we want to keep it new and changing. Also, they have a really big fan base, so that helps also. So some history and music business aspects. Palm Desert bands are known for heavy music and associations with elite substances like marijuana, magic mushrooms. Bands would perform in bars, at parties, and in isolated towns in the desert areas. Concerts were free, so anyone could come and anyone could play. Bands played whatever they wanted, and if people didn't like it, they just told the band, and then the band would take a new risk or try something else. They would just experiment and see what they could do to make new sounds or make their performance better so that the people would like it. Bands would play genres like rock, punk, metal. The people who played in the Palm Desert area these concerts finally started becoming described as desert rock. And then in Palm Desert, there was a band we talked about earlier, Kyuss, who in the 1990s created a genre called stoner rock. And after that, everybody started doing it, and it just hit the world like a storm. Stoner rock is usually like a slower mid-tempo with features of distortion, bass that has heavy sounds, melodic vocals, and retro production. So these bands really, especially after Kyuss kind of formed this stoner rock, it really took the world by storm. The influence. Stoner rock bands from Palm Desert have definitely left an impact on the music business world. The desert music scene is exploding. Each year, Coachella is hosted in the Desert Valley, where all these stoner rock bands started playing in the beginning, like in the 1990s. There are other festivals held in the desert areas and other places. People have began to enjoy the desert sound and the vibe. People like something new and different, and they're really enjoying the atmosphere that these desert music scenes and concerts are providing. So in conclusion, Palm Desert has created a new scene in the desert. People are loving the music, the atmosphere that these events are sharing. People enjoy the music and the new sounds and the genres like stoner rock. The desert music scene is exploding and leaving its mark on the world. People can thank bands like Kyuss and Queens of the Stone Age for the new music and the effect that it is having on the world. So that's it. That's my presentation on Palm Desert, California.